In your family right now, who actually comes first? Your spouse or your kids?
Take a second with that one.
Because the answer you just gave in your head
Might be exactly what's working against you. Hey guys, we're Chris and Casey from Our Family Rescue.
We have real conversations about blended family life. The great parts, the hard parts, the messy parts, and how to get through them all without it costing you your marriage.
Because when the marriage is healthy, the whole family benefits.
And when the marriage starts struggling, the kids feel that too. And we've learned that the hard way.
We're not therapists or counselors. We're a couple who's lived this.
We both grew up in blended families and then ended up building one of our own.
When we got together, we brought 6 kids under one roof, different ages, personalities, and needs.
And like most couples, we thought love would make it all come together.
It didn't.
We went through seasons of tension, exhaustion, and feeling completely overwhelmed.
But our commitment to God, to each other, and to our family is what carried us through.
And over time, we learned what actually works and what doesn't.
That's why we started Our Family Rescue.
Because when we were going through it, we felt alone, and we don't want any other families to feel that way.
We will share personal stories, but just so you know, we keep all of our kids' details private.
But we will always tell you how it felt from our side, and honestly, that's the most important part anyway, right?
Of course. Today, we're diving into one of the most controversial questions in a blended family. Who do you actually put first? Your spouse or your kids? Let's just name what's happening out there because we see it all the time.
A parent goes through a painful divorce. They feel guilty. They feel like they put their kids through something awful. So they make a silent promise to themselves. I'm going to make this up to them. I'm going to put my kids first, always.
And that feels like the right thing to do. It feels noble. It feels like good parenting.
But then you remarry and you blend a family, and that same mindset, kids first, always, starts creating problems you didn't see coming.
Because now there's another adult in the home who also loves those kids and is slowly starting to feel like they come second to them.
And the kids? They start to figure out that they have a certain kind of power in your marriage. And whether they mean to use it or not, they will.
And just like that, the thing you thought was protecting your kids is quietly threatening the marriage that was supposed to give them a stable home.
I want to be really honest about something because I think a lot of moms especially are going to relate to this. When I went through my divorce, I made myself a promise. I said the words out loud. No one is ever going to come between me and my kids. And I meant it with everything in me. I was a single mom. My children were my world. My entire focus was on providing for them and protecting them and making sure they knew that they were loved no matter what happened in our family. And for that season of my life, that was exactly the right posture. But then Chris came into the picture and something started shifting in me that I didn't fully understand at first. Because I could see really clearly that having Chris in our lives was one of the best things that could happen for my kids. Not just because they needed a father figure, but because their need to see their mother and a healthy, loving, functioning marriage, that was something I couldn't give them alone, no matter how hard I tried. And I started to realize that my promise needed to evolve. It wasn't no one will ever come between me and my kids anymore. It became, I will always do what is actually best for my kids. And those two things turned out to be very different statements. Because what's best for my kids is not me putting them above my marriage. What's best for my kids is watching Chris and I choose each other, watching us work through conflict, watching us respect each other, watching us be a team. That becomes their blueprint. That becomes what they think marriage is supposed to look like when they grow up and build their own families. And here's the part that took me the longest to really accept. If I kept putting my kids first and it slowly drove a wedge between Chris and me, then my kids would have to go through the devastation of another family falling apart, another separation, more loss, more grief. Putting my marriage first wasn't choosing Chris over my kids. It was choosing my kids' future.
From my side, I want to talk about what this actually looks like in practice, because the spouse first conversation can sound simple in theory, but gets complicated really fast in a blended family. One of the biggest places this shows up is in parenting decisions. And I'll be honest, when Casey and I first got together, we didn't always handle this well. There were moments where a kid would come to one of us with something, a request, a situation, or conflict, and we'd react on the spot, individually, without checking with each other first. And kids are smart. They learn quickly which parent is more likely to say yes. They learn where the soft spots are. And before you know it, they're not just asking questions, they're working the system. Not out of malice, just out of being kids. That's what kids do. But what that created between Casey and I was division. She'd say one thing, I'd say another. And suddenly we weren't a united front anymore. We were two separate parents with two separate agendas living in the same house. And the kids felt that, and it made everything harder. What changed things for us was making a commitment that parenting decisions were between Casey and I first, and then communicated to the kids together. If one of them put us on the spot for an answer, the answer was, we'll talk about it and let you know. Not because we were being evasive, but because we were being a team. And I want to be clear, that doesn't mean Casey and I always agreed. We didn't. We still don't. But disagreements about parenting happen between us in private, where we can actually work through them without the kids watching and learning that they can drive a wedge between us. The other piece of this that I feel really strongly about is protecting the marriage intentionally. Not just in the big decisions, but in the everyday moments too. Because when you have 6 kids and a household to run and schedules and school and activities, all of it, your marriage will get lost in the noise if you don't fight for it. I've seen it happen. I felt it starting to happen to us. You have to make time for each other that has nothing to do with the kids. Not to talk about the kids' schedules, not to debrief the latest situation, just to be with each other. To remember why you chose this person, to keep that connection alive. Because if that connection dies, everything else falls with it.
Now, before we go any further, we want to be really clear about something, because we know someone watching needs to hear this.
If there is ever anything illegal, immoral, or unsafe happening in your home, like abuse, neglect, or anything that puts your children at risk, you put your kids first. You protect your kids immediately, without question. That's not what we're talking about today, okay?
What we're talking about is that everyday tension that most blended families face. The guilt-driven parenting, the division, that slow drift that happens when marriage stops being the priority.
And the truth is, a healthy marriage and putting your kids first are not the same thing. But a healthy marriage is absolutely one of the best things you can give your kids.
Those are two very different statements, and understanding the difference changes everything.
So, what does it actually look like to put your marriage first in a blended family? Let's get practical.
The first thing is unity. You and your spouse have to be on the same page about discipline, screen time, bedtimes, values, faith. You don't have to agree on everything overnight, but you have to be working toward that alignment together. Because when you're divided, kids feel it, and they will find the cracks.
And when a decision needs to be made in the moment, and you're not there yet, say, we'll talk about it and get back to you. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Because the alternative is answering on the spot, possibly contradicting each other, and handing your kids a roadmap for how to play you against each other.
And whatever you do, never go to your child and tell them they don't have to listen to your spouse, or just wait until they leave and you can do what you want. The moment you do that, you've handed your child the power over your marriage. You've shown them, without saying the words, that your spouse's authority doesn't matter. And if it doesn't matter to you, why would it ever matter to them?
Second, protect your time together. We had 6 kids, tight finances, and barely a minute to breathe. There were nights our big date was sneaking into our room with a bowl of ice cream and closing the door. There were times we managed to get every single kid to a friend's house just to have one night alone. Or we took a walk around the block to have adult conversation and connection. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to be intentional.
Because if you don't fight for that time, it disappears. The schedule fills up, the needs pile on, and suddenly weeks have gone by and every single conversation you've had has been about somebody else's problems. That distance is quiet, but it adds up. And one day you look at each other and you realize you've become strangers.
And watch what those conversations are about, too. If all you ever talk about together is the kids' issues and schedules and conflicts, it will drain you both. You'll start to resent each other without even knowing it. Make room for conversations that have nothing to do with parenting. Laugh together, dream together, stay connected to the people you actually fell in love with.
And third, when your spouse is addressing a child's behavior, stand with them. Even if you'd handle it differently in that moment, you work that out privately later together. Because the moment you step in and take your child's side against your spouse in front of everyone, you haven't just undermined your spouse. You've shown every kid in that house exactly how much you respect the person you married.
And they will not forget it. They will use it.
None of this requires perfection. It just requires awareness. And when you get it wrong, because you will, we all do, you talk about it, own it, and get back on the same team.
Because that's what your kids actually need to see. Not a perfect marriage, a real one. Two people who keep choosing each other even when it's hard.
Here's the bottom line. Your kids are watching your marriage every single day. They're taking notes on how you treat each other, how you handle conflict, how you repair after a hard moment, and whether the two of you actually even like each other.
And what they see becomes their standard. It becomes what they think is normal. It becomes what they will look for or recreate in their own relationship someday.
So when you choose your marriage, when you protect it and invest in it and fight for it, you're doing something for your kids that goes way beyond the day-to-day. You're handing them a picture of what love actually looks like.
And in a blended family especially, where many of these kids have already watched one marriage fall apart, that picture matters more than ever.
Your kids don't need a perfect marriage. They need a real one. One where they see two people choosing each other, working through hard things, and staying on the same team.
That's what gives them security. That's what gives them hope. And honestly, that's what gives them permission to believe that a healthy marriage is actually possible for them one day too.
And as always, there's no one size fits all here. Every family is different. Every season is different. But the principle stays the same.
A strong marriage at the center of your home changes everything around it. So protect it like it matters, because it does.
If any of this hit close to home today, if you've been feeling that tension between your kids and your marriage and wondering how to find the balance, you're not alone.
This is one of the most common struggles in blended families, and most couples are trying to navigate it without any real guidance.
That's exactly why we created Blended Family Survival Training. It walks couples through the most common challenges blended families face, step by step, with real tools that you can actually use right where you are.
The training teaches couples how to communicate and work through these situations together. And if you want to see whether it's the right fit for your family, we put together a free starter kit. No pressure, no commitment, just a starting point.
When you grab the free starter kit, you'll also get access to a video walkthrough of the full course, so you can see exactly what's inside before you decide anything.
Just go to ourfamilyrescue.com. The link is right here in the description.
And if this video resonated with you, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications, because our next video is one you're really going to want to see.
Next time, we're talking about something that affects every single person in a blended family, and most people don't realize the damage it's doing until it's already done. How you talk about your ex in front of your kids and to your kids. It's a bigger deal than you think, and we're going to show you why.
We post regularly, and every single video is a real, honest conversation about what it actually takes to build a strong, healthy marriage inside a blended family.
We're not pretending we have it all figured out, but we have been through it, and we're here to walk through it with you.
Thanks for tuning in. We are really glad you're here.